Scott, did you have kolaches for breakfast this morning?
No, but I thought about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's you're inextricably is that the word inextricably
That's a good word.
inextricably connected to kolaches for me now. So that's I thought the same thing when I woke up this morning. I was like, man, I could use some kolaches.
Always.
So here we are. One of my favorite people. We're about to talk about one of my favorite things, bagpipes, and tie it into one of my favorite times of year, the Christmas season. What have you got on the plate for me, Scott? What can you tell me about?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, James. I've got two tunes I wanted to talk about briefly. Um, One is from the Isle of Man, and the other is a Polish tune that both can be played on the bagpipes. So the first tune I'd like to talk about is a song called Ayns. And as you read it, it may not read the same way that you would pronounce it, but it's
Yeah.
Eganon's Bethlehem. And this is from the Manx Gaelic. It's a traditional carval or song. So, like I mentioned, it's from the Isle of Man. Um, it's an old tune, but the tune was actually collected back in like the 1890s by a guy named W.H. Gill. And he also later composed the Manx national anthem. I can't sing that for you.
Oh, come
Um,
on.
but it was interesting. So long before Christianity took hold in Scotland and Ireland and the Isle of Man, the Celts celebrated the winter solstice and the coming of light and hope. And so the echoes of paganism still resound in this 13th and 14th century tune, which is
Very
kind of
cool.
cool. Like it's an old tune.
Yeah, very
Let me
cool.
just let me just read like the first verse for you.
Are you gonna read it to me in Manx Gaelic?
I wish I could have practiced longer to do that. Here's the translation.
Okay.
Now let us all this feast day keep with hearts unsoiled and clean in memory of Jesus Christ, a Christ, a child in Bethlehem. But it's kind of cool. The tune is pretty simple. It's kind of a I'm gonna call it a minor tune. I could just sing the tune for you, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, go
But
for it.
it goes something like this. Da 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 da.
Lovely.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool tune. But what I've got is a score to it. So if you'd like to play it on the pipes, there's also a recording that I heard from a group called Apollo's Fire. Um, they did a concert back in 2012, and oh, it's just beautiful. If you listen to the whole concert, it's really cool too. They play some other Celtic music. And then I've got some links to some other people that have sung it. There's a lady, Ruth Keggins, who's got a lovely arrangement. And then there's an Alexander Slater. I think she sang it just a couple of years ago. I've got a link out on Twitter. Anyway, we've got a link for several different things. There's a Pamela Kerruish who sang it back in 1968. And kind of an interesting story when she sang it, it was recorded, but no one knew who she was. And then I think it was just a couple of years ago, they were trying to track down, like, who was this woman? And she's got a great voice. And anyway, they finally figured it out and matched her up with who sang it.
Oh,
So
I see. So
yeah,
now this is really fun. I mean, with a tune this old, you can kind of expect that a lot of people will have done it, but it also
yeah,
like that's a catchy. If you can use the word catchy, I'd sooner say maybe haunting, but in a positive way.
yeah.
Melody, it sticks with you, is all I'm getting at, I guess.
It does.
Um,
Yeah,
its
yeah. It's
popularity is
pretty.
proven by the fact that it's still around after so much time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And what
and you can play it on the pipes.
help my ignorance. I've always this is one of those things that I've always wondered because I encounter it in passing, but I've never taken the time to like type it into Google. Is
Hmm.
Manx in reference to the Isle of Man specifically?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it
when I see things
is.
like Manx Gaelic or the Manx Celts, etc., that's the people's languages, etc., that are specific to the Isle of Man.
Yep. Or the Manx cat, even.
What? Whoa! I hadn't even made that
Yep.
connection. Wow.
There you go. Yeah, crazy stuff.
Now suddenly the Manx cat is like a Christmas cat in my mind.
Yes.
So, any other notes about this tune?
No, really all that I've got. I just recommend playing it. I wasn't familiar with it. I started doing some research on it and kind of fell in love with it. So it's one that I'm going to add to my Christmas tunes to play.
Awesome. Well, and that list that you had of links to people doing renditions of it, we will include that in the notes for sure. So just hop over there and click some links and get familiar with this really pretty tune.
Awesome. That'd be great.
Cool. Now, Scott, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. I'm curious, do you have any like holiday treats or meals or food traditions of any kind, holiday favorites that you want to talk to me about? Or that I could convince you to talk to me about?
Sure. Um, our family for Christmas morning, this is kind of fun. We make something that's called monkey bread. It's just like the Rhodes rolls that you dip in brown sugar and pudding and you bake. And so it's this really sticky bread. And we put it in a bump pan. So if you can imagine Christmas morning, you can smell kind of a cinnamon flavored, super sticky that's going to get everywhere sticky, but just kind of a delicious treat.
What kind of pudding do you use?
I think we do like a butterscotch. So you just kind of roll the bread in butter and then you roll it in instant pudding and then you add some brown sugar and spices and just layer it into a bump pan and cook it up.
I think that I've seen monkey bread before because after it comes out of that bundt pan, it kind of ends up in like sort of this pull apart sort of situation, right? Where you can kind of
Yeah.
pull those chunks out that are the individual rolls all smushed together.
Yep. Very caramelized, very buttery, very gooey, very good. So
I like it in that it sounds delicious and the utilization of Rhodes rolls makes it simple, and so it's something I could actually do.
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That's how I make kolaches when I'm making them at home. Is I use Rhodes
Oh,
rolls.
really?
Yeah, I just let them rise
Interesting.
almost completely, and I prep the filling, and then I just basically smash that filling into the roll, and kind of close it around it. Then let them rise
Oh,
another 15
wow.
minutes and bake them, and it works out pretty
Oh,
well.
brilliant. That's really good.
So
Yeah.
may at this special time of year, the people at the Rhodes Bakery enjoy special cheerfulness and joy because they bring so much of it to us.
Yes. Let that tradition continue forever.
And what else you got for me, Scott? What else do you
Well,
have?
I've got another tune. And this one's a Polish tune. Again, reading it, Polish is kind of a cool language. It doesn't have a lot of vowels in the language, but
Yeah.
this tune's called, you may be familiar with this one. It's called Infant Holy, Infant Lowly. In Polish, you pronounce it as Shobi Leisure. And so there's lots of
Okay.
W's and Z's and
Yeah, I was gonna say
X's.
I'm looking at the written form of the name, and I wouldn't have pronounced it that way. Now that you've said it, I can see that. But not only are there W's and Z's, there's also like crossed out letters and dots above consonants and stuff. All kinds of things that I have no idea what to do with.
Yeah. And this one's really cool. I mean, once you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, I recognize this tune. It's a traditional Polish Christmas carol, and it's kind of cool. This song also could date back to the 13th century, so we're talking ancient musical history for both of these tunes.
I love
Um,
that. When I encounter tunes like that are so old, I can't help but wonder like what did someone turn over a rock somewhere in like Western Europe and find sheet music, chiseled into it? Like how
right.
on earth does such a thing last so long? It's amazing.
See, that would be a cool thing to figure out. Like, where did this song come from? Who tracked it down?
Yeah.
What was the history of that? So, I think it was translated into English in 1920. And it's interesting. This song's rhythm resembles that of a Polish folk dance called a mazurka.
Oh, I've heard of that.
This was popularized by Frederick Chopin. And it's kind of interesting. The short rhythm phrases lead to a crescendo at the start of each stanza's final lines that goes to Christ the babe is Lord of all.
Mm.
Let me just read a little bit of the lyrics from that in English.
Yeah.
Again, I wish I could speak Polish, but I cannot. But it starts with infant holy, infant lowly, for his bed a cattle stall, oxen lowing, little knowing Christ the babe is Lord of all. And then it goes through, and where it climaxes again, it says, Christ the babe is Lord of all. And then it gets quieter and repeats that strain again, Christ the babe is Lord of all. So it's kind of cool. Just a couple other notes about it. I've got a recording we can include in the show notes. It's from the Warsaw Philharmonic Choir and Orchestra. It's a recording from 2015, and it's interesting listening to how they play it. It's very upbeat, but as they play it, they also stretch the musicality of it, and they have some really slow, kind of beautiful strains that come through it. It's this back and forth dialogue, I think, between the women's section of the choir and the men's section of the choir. You'll have to listen to it. It's really cool. I like that recording.
Yeah.
And this is kind of interesting. I love music videos as well. There's a recording from the Tabernacle Choir where they sing it in English, but they do a music video, and they pair the music with a man that's being released from prison. And I think as you read through the text and you hear the music, it's very poignant. And they do kind of, the slow traditional Christmas sound to it, but that one's really kind of cool as well. And I think I've got a recording. I don't know if well, maybe it's just for the chanter, but it's James McGilvray where he plays just the simple tune, and yeah, it's kind of cool to hear that as well. So music is great. Our family just loves listening to music and playing music at Christmas time.
Are you going to be playing your pipes for your family this year?
I can. Yeah, I hadn't planned to do that, but yeah, it's just going to be our immediate family. We're not getting together with anybody else, but
yeah, it's a year of staying home and being cozy with the immediate family, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.